Hello, I'm Pamela Davis. Welcome to episode 140 of the Well Done Life podcast. Hello, and welcome back to episode 140 of the Well Done Life podcast. I'm your host, Pamela Davis. If you are new here, hey, how are you? Welcome. I am so glad that you are here with us this week. If you've been here before, you guys know the deal. I love you deep, and I really appreciate you continuing to support the journey with me. Before we get started with this week's episode, again, probably sounding like a broken record, I like to make sure that we set the foundation. I want to make sure that we are building this safe space, this house, on two very important things, and that is clarity and love. So clarity is pretty straightforward. I just like to make sure that you know that the Well Done Life podcast is a podcast and a space that I created for women. I created this space for us because we need spaces where we can be our most authentic selves. I think women are the foundation of society, and I want to have spaces where we learn, laugh, cry, and support each other on our journeys to live our best life. So welcome, and I am so glad again to have you here. And then that leads me into my favorite thing, love. I love love. Love is the thing. And I want you to know that everything that we will do in this space is rooted in love. I want you to know that you are loved from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. And because I want you to know that, every week I like to send you prayers. So this week I want to send you prayers of intention. I really feel like, again, this is such a really transformative time for all of us. I feel so blessed to be able to witness people betting on themselves, finding the love that they desire, just changing their whole dynamic because they took a chance on themselves. So I want you to have prayers of intention, because when you are intentional about yourself, you are thoughtful about you. You realize the value of you, and you monitor what you do. You monitor what you consume into your spirit. I want to make sure that you are thinking about how valuable you are, and so that you are very careful with yourself, very intentional, very thoughtful. Be very thoughtful during this time. Words and thoughts and energy have power. And so you want to make sure that you are aligning everything to your vision, because whatever is in your heart that you are able to think of and speak on, this is a season in which it could come to pass. So recognize that power that you have. Stand in it and guard it with everything that you have, so that you can just continue to manifest the dreams and blessings that are waiting for you. God is waiting for you to surrender to Him. Surrender to all of the things that you want to accomplish. Don't be afraid. This is your season. This is your time. And on top of intention, I always like to make sure that, especially in moments like this where we are all just in this season of growth, that we carve out time for peace. So I want to make sure I'm sending you prayers of peace. I want to make sure that you are taking time out for yourself, because life is lifing. I mean, things are hectic. And everything is moving so quickly. I don't want you to get derailed by life, because you're not going to be able to stop it. Things are going to happen. And there comes a point in our lives where we have to kind of learn how to navigate life so that we can still be fulfilled and still find our center and find our peace. So make sure you are carving time out for you, whatever that looks like. It could be as small as drinking a cup of water, a cup of tea, going for a walk. Move your body. Free your mind. Give yourself that energy of peace around you, because it'll help you with your intention and your focus as you are in this next season. And then along that line also, which is my main prayer all the time for each of you, is love. You know, like I said, I want you to feel love from the top of your head to the bottom of your feet. I want you to have reciprocal relationships on all levels, not just romantic. I mean, we all should be blessed to have people in our lives who feel like sunshine and pour into us. Value those people. Those people are lights and they are far and few between, So just make sure that you are looking and cultivating for relationships that are reciprocal. So those are just a few of the prayers that I have for you this week. I hope that you guys are doing well and everything is going really great. I want to thank you all in advance for your support of episode 139, Intention and Vitality with Dana Frost. We had a really amazing, intentional conversation around just her journey, but also our health. Because as women, it gets more challenging trying to advocate for ourselves and just making sure that we are being very thoughtful and intentional with our vitality, our energy, our life. And Dana is a prime example of being able to be an advocate for yourself, being an alchemist of your journey. So if you haven't had a chance to check out that episode, I would strongly recommend it. It was amazing. And I'm going to put the link to it in the show notes. But this week I am back again with another guest. I am super excited to introduce Z of Compass Collective to you. I met Z through an event that I attended right before before the holidays in December, the Alex L event. And when I first walked into the event and got situated and started to feel the energy and I recognized who was doing it, I was like, I have to meet her. I want to connect with her because we need to do something like that together. So that'll come out probably in the course of our conversation. But we had a really great conversation about her journey to betting on herself, to standing in her confidence, to create Compass Collective, which is I don't even think saying an online bookstore would be even a fair enough way to say it. She is a community healer. I think that is a better way. And books are the resources that she has leveraged to have that journey. So I would like you to sit back and relax, maybe grab a cup of tea, some water, chill out, and be mesmerized by the amazing Z of Compass Collective. So she will be with you in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
So my name is Zera. It's like my government name. I go by Z. Everyone calls me Z, so y'all can call me Z. But yes, I am the owner and founder of Compass Collective, and it is a independent bookshop. And I say it's more than that. It's more like a community as well. I sort of created Compass Collective. I say that it's been a seed in my heart for decades. And I finally, in the last year, kind of had the courage to kind of nurture that seed and to see it kind of grow and flourish. And it's just, it's such an honor to even be doing this in this stage of my life. But yeah, so that's what we're about. And we're just sort of about, using books as a portal to healing, as a portal to peace. And we focus on diverse books, inclusive books, healing centered, all things healing. So yeah, that's CC in a nutshell.
Well, that's a nice big nutshell there. And I'm that you guys have so many different aspects of yourself. And one thing that you said that really kind of struck me, you said a few things, but planting that seed, that is something been in your heart for a while. What inspired you to originally plant that seed? Like, how did you decide that this is what you really wanted to do with your passions?
So it's interesting. I had a love for reading and the arts and the creatives since I was young, like super, super into anything in the arts. And that was sort of in my home. That was like my safe haven. That's how I traveled. That's how that was through books. Yeah. And the household that I grew up in was chaotic and traumatic. And there was a lot of moving parts going on. And I think at some point, pretty young, I had some sort of click or realization where I kind of knew I need to get out of the situation. And so what I did is I sort of put my passion for the creatives on the back burner and kind of put my nose down and just kind of went into complete strive. What do I need to do to get out of this home? And out of this, kind of break a cycle, essentially, right?
Mhm.
And that took me on a very different path. And it really, for a long time. And I think I was seeking, safety and security.
Mhm.
And so to do that, and in that situation, I had to kind of play small, right? I could not
Mhm.
take up space, and I couldn't really follow it, my passions, and, kind of be a kid. So I ended up kind of doing that. And I was a great people pleaser, and I was a great student.
Yeah.
And I did all the things. I checked all the boxes. And so I actually went to school, um, and got a degree in optometry. So I know people are like, wait a second.
I know. Yeah, that is definitely always like, huh? But okay,
Yeah.
it's okay.
Yes. So I went to school, and I also loved education. And so I was an education major for a very, very long time.
Okay.
And last minute, I remember I was doing like an internship or something like that. And I was taking students to an eye doctor. And I just remember thinking this eye doctor had the best chairside manner, and the way he spoke to the way he spoke to the kids. And
Right.
I thought it's like he's teaching them about their
Mhm.
conditions and their eyes. And I was like, this could be like the perfect blend of both worlds, right?
Right.
And I mean, I was a junior in college, and I switched, and I remember taking the entrance exam for it, and I was like, wow, okay, I did decent. Like, let's see where this goes. And so, yeah, I went, and I initially kind of went to optometry school and thought, I'll teach, I'll do
Right.
optometry, but then I'll teach it at a certain level. But then, life was kind of happening on as well.
Yep.
And I ended up kind of getting into a clinical setting. Um, and when I was in that clinical setting, a large portion of when I was in practice, I served like a medically underserved area.
Okay.
And for me, I noticed now, everyone finds their passion in their careers in different things, right? So, like, I would
Right.
have colleagues that would, they would see a really interesting odd case, and it would be like, oh my God, that's amazing. Or someone came in with a retinal detachment, and I'm like, oh, that's scary to me. Like,
Me too, but
you
okay.
know, for me, I was like, oh, like, how's the family? You have a
Right.
new grandkid. Like, it was all about like the relationships, the
Mhm.
connection. And I think that's how I really built my practice. But when I was in that community in particular, I mean, I would talk to my patients, and a lot of times people would kind of look over their shoulder, like,
Yeah.
you're talking to me. And I'm like, yeah. And so it was just such a, it was so, it just really disheartened me that
Right.
that's how a lot of the field is.
Mhm.
Um, and that's because of their own, protocols and, things like that
Yeah.
in general. But that's something that I'm very passionate about is connection, building a relationship.
Mhm.
And that is sort of what planted the seed of Compass Collective is I knew I had this passion for reading, and I knew I had this passion of just wanting people to feel like seen and supported.
Right.
And I've had thought for years, like, how can I mesh these two things together?
Yeah.
Um, and for me, I was admittedly in the trenches of grind culture. I was in it. I was a wife, I was a mom to two young kids. I was working, my parents' health was failing,
Yeah.
and it started to take a toll on me. And I realized I just wasn't happy with how I was showing up in the world.
Mhm.
And I just had like this moment of something's got to change.
Right.
And I think a lot of people will understand that when you have that moment, especially if you have some perfectionist tendencies,
Oh,
it's
yes.
like
Me
I was
too.
like, okay, I'm ready. Let me get my checklist because I'm
Uh-huh.
gonna meditate. I'm gonna go on this walk. I'm gonna do this, and then I tried to do it the next day, and it was terrible. I was like, this is
That's
awful.
how it always is, though. It's always terrible. It
It
always is
is
just like, okay, you're gonna try to throw yourself into all of it, and it just falls
right.
apart. So,
Exactly.
you're not
Exactly.
alone.
The checklist was not working. It was not
Okay.
working. Um, and so I thought, okay, well, listen, I'm not gonna be able to meditate for 45 minutes today, but let me read a chapter for
Right.
15 minutes. I can do that.
Yes.
And so that was sort of my gateway into the world of healing. This was obviously several years ago.
Mhm.
Um, and it was just, it made a tremendous difference and it was super transformative. And so I think for a lot of folks that want to start a healing practice,
Mhm.
it doesn't have to always look like, meditating in a field with flowers around you, right? Like
Right.
it's going to be hard to slow down. It's not easy. It's going to be uncomfortable, but that's something that, you know, hopefully, like that's, hopefully a practical, useful thing. Hey, let's sit for 3, 4 minutes and read a couple pages and find some peace in that moment. Let your body relax in that moment,
Right.
things like that.
I love that because it makes me I see now how Compass Collective is so much more than obviously your bookstore. Because personally, I feel like for you, you're looking at it as like you're still healing. You're teaching people
Mhm.
how to heal themselves. You're it might not be an optometry, but your manner of how you're going about trying to create this space where people can find resources that can help them on their journey, I think is it still kind of lends to that. So when you made that transition from
Mhm.
optometry into Compass Collective, how has that how do you feel that that transition has gone? Like, do you feel like there's been little rocky roads along the way, or do you feel like you were ready to make that full transition?
Yeah, that's a good question. That's a good question. There was definitely, I think what was rocky for me
Mhm.
was the perception of other people.
Mm.
Because I think a
Okay.
lot of other folks kind of like, she must be going through something, you know? And I'm like, well, true, aren't we all though?
Right, exactly. Yeah, you are, but okay.
um, so it's funny that you say that though, because this was something that I had been sort of marinating on for a while, right? But it
Okay.
really wasn't until there was the forced pause of the
Mhm.
pandemic where
Right.
I really had to like, there was a time where, we had to shut down the practice, like I think, everyone in the state had to do that. And
Mhm.
I got to this point where I'm like, okay, well, now I am teaching because I was homeschooling my 2 kids. Um, the practice was sort of in limbo. It's closed right now. Are we going to reopen? Are we not?
Mhm.
Um, and then again, I think I mentioned, but I have elderly parents. I'm sort of in this odd generation where I'm caregiving for them and then also caregiving for my little ones.
Yeah.
So I was kind of burning the candles at both ends. And I went back for a little bit and it just wasn't, I think I just had that moment of like a realization that just said, you know what, this just isn't working anymore. And
Mhm.
so I decided to close at that time. So this was December 2020, right before vaccines and all that came out.
Right.
And it felt good, actually. It was bittersweet. Of course, it was sad because that was sort of like a baby in its own sense, right? But I also at the same time felt very good and accomplished, and I'm okay to wrap up that chapter. And so
Mhm.
I closed that up and walked away feeling okay. What's been tricky is, I had years and years of training in optometry, right? I had years and years of clinical practice in
Uh-huh.
this. And then I'm doing something else that's completely new at 40 that really not a lot of, it's not something that I can turn to a ton of people and say, like, oh, what's the model for this? What's the model for that?
Right.
And then still doing it anyways.
Yes.
um, that's been, of course, it's been rocky. And there's been, it's like you trade that 40-hour week for sometimes 60-hour weeks and things like that. But it's so fulfilling because for me, where I am right now, it feels very much more purpose driven than
Mhm.
brand driven, if that makes sense.
That totally
It
does.
feels like I'm walking in my purpose. And so when I accepted that,
Uh-huh.
I was able to also let go of other people's perceptions and thoughts and questions
Mhm.
about it, because I was able to just accept it and just kind of fully embody it.
Yeah. And to me, to walk in your purpose, especially when you've been in situations where you've doubted yourself previously, that is such a brave thing to do. It is, because it's like
Mhm.
you're putting your heart out. Like I always like to say, you're putting your heart out for the world to judge it. And you're still doing it anyway, knowing that, there may be some kind of judgments, maybe not. I
Mhm.
I was gonna say, do you feel brave right now walking in it?
I do. I do
I
feel
love
brave.
that.
I
Good.
do. And you know what's funny is I and a lot of people don't know this. I remember because again, this is something that I've been ruminating on for a while, right? So I have my little business plan, and it's, things that you need.
Okay.
It's like, open the bank account, get the inventory, right? Like all these little things. And the
Right.
last thing I wrote on there, I wrote believers.
Mm,
And before a few weeks before I launched, I lost a friend of mine unexpectedly,
sorry.
completely unexpectedly. And it was after that, or I looked at that plan again, and you just realize there's a lot that we don't have control over.
Yeah.
There's a lot of things that just are uncertain. And I had that moment where I looked at that list and said, I need to believe in this. I don't need to have, believers on my, like, I need to believe in this vision and this purpose, not even so much in myself. That's how I was at that time. It's like, I
Uh-huh.
need to just believe in this purpose and this, what I'm seeing and hoping to manifest. Um, and then that's, not but a couple weeks after, I just said, okay, we're going to do it. We're going to launch, and we're going to figure it out, and we're going to learn along the way. And that's what we're out here doing.
I love it, because I mean that essentially that's what it is. I think we all have to get to this point where we realize it's like there's no perfect plan, there's no perfect time.
Mhm.
At some point in time, and this message just keeps kind of sitting on me. And this is the second time today I've had this conversation with someone. At some point in time, you have to bet on yourself. You have to bet
Mm.
on your vision. And the fact that you're doing that at 40, yes, I'm sure for the world out there, it probably scares them. But I'm like, to me, that seems like the time in your life when it's starting to feel like that's when we're more willing to bet on ourselves, when life is
Mhm.
lifing and we have just been hit on all sides. It's like, okay, I gotta go ahead. I might as well. Like my motto is,
Yeah.
now why not?
Yeah, absolutely. And like, we deserve to bet on ourselves. We deserve to step into our dream space, right? I
Absolutely.
mean, we
Yeah.
deserve to take up space and do all these things. So yeah, there's no more, going along to get along,
Yeah.
playing small, and
Mhm.
it's never too late. I mean, listen, it is never ever too late.
I,
I was out here, I had zero social media experience. I had no idea when I first started. I said, I can't do it, I'm not doing a reel. I don't know. It's not happening.
I'm still sometimes not doing a reel. You're doing great. I see your stuff. You're doing good.
Thank you. Thank you. But that is a complete learning curve. I had like zero experience. That is a testament to it truly is, you're not too old, it's not too late, and we deserve to bet on our dreams, bet on ourselves.
I agree. And I'm so glad that you're doing it, because what you do from being able to be a part of one of your events is so powerful. And so that makes me wonder, obviously it's been just a few years since you started.
Hmm.
What has been one of the most impactful things that has happened to you since you've done this?
Um, I have to say the event with Alex L was I don't even have it was such a profound,
Yes.
nourishing experience. And
Mhm.
it when the idea of community feels elusive to you,
Mhm.
that's why I want to do these events because community does not have to be elusive. And there really is power in community.
Yes.
And that event for me was something that I will always remember. And I just thought it was so powerful, and so special and sacred.
Yeah.
So that was, yeah, that was beautiful. And I'm so
Now,
glad that you were able to make it.
oh yeah, I'm very glad that I was able to make it. I've talked about it on the podcast because I've never been in a space where there are so many different people, men,
Mm-hmm.
women, black, white, whatever, all committed to healing,
Right.
all open and vulnerable to healing. And it's
Mm-hmm.
not about being hoity-toity, it's not putting on airs, it's just people authentically being themselves. Because,
Mm-hmm.
normally we all wear masks as we're moving through the world. And
Right.
so to be in that space that you cultivated, I was just like mesmerized by how that's done because I love that. And I guess that does make me have another question then, because obviously being able to create such a community event, how has discovering community impacted you in your life and over your journey? Because, like you said, you've been through a lot in your life from growing up in
Mm-hmm.
a household, finding your career. Like, how has community or your love of community led you to where you are right now?
Um, so, so it's not it's not a secret that there was, I had a lot of kind of traumas and losses, um, and things were difficult, right? And so I I probably started like conventional Western therapy sometime in my 20s.
Okay.
Um, and of course that's helpful. Of course, that's always great. But I mean, typically in the Western society, it's a little one-sided where it's like, you have the clinician and it's like, okay, tell me your story, right?
Mhm.
And so like for me personally, that felt a little awkward. It didn't feel like a safe space, right?
Okay.
Um, and and a lot of other cultures, there's more of a exchange, almost like a wounded healer, right?
Right.
So it's I recognize your pain. Here's some of my pain. I can I can hold space for you
Mhm.
and have this exchange, right? And so then these sort of things evolved into like sister circles, right? Things
Yeah.
like that, and these healing circles. And I mean, I thought I was doing pretty good. I'm like, okay, this is great. Again, the idea of community had been something that I had, heard about, thought I
Mhm.
knew about. And then I went to a retreat actually that Alex was teaching,
Okay.
and it was a community circle, and that there was no shame, no judgment. People were being completely vulnerable, almost so much so that when I first got there, I was a little like, "Oh, I can't. This is too much. Like, is this
Right.
is this really happening? Is everyone really like, Because I just wasn't used to it. I didn't know
Uh-huh.
that that could exist.
Right.
Um, and I stuck with it, and it was such a transformative moment, and that's where I knew that there is power in this sort of community healing, where
Mhm.
there's an exchange. So it doesn't feel like you're especially when you go through the world where no one really gives you the platform to speak, or nobody really I've never walked through the world and people have been like, I want to hear what you want to say,
Right.
right? I mean, that's an
Yeah.
experience for many of us. So
Facts.
then to me, that's why conventional therapy at times was kind of like, this is a little awkward, this isn't my life experience. But
Right.
I can get with my girlfriends and we can cut up and laugh and cry. And that leaves me feeling so nourished, so fulfilled.
Right.
And so then having that sort of, community with strangers, really, now some of which are very good friends of mine, um, was just a really transformative moment for me. And then that's when I knew that this is something that I needed to pour into, because I
Yeah.
knew that there was power in it after experiencing it myself.
And I think it's so funny how a lot of that happens because we don't realize a purpose or a direction that we want to go until we're like faced with it. So yes, to be in a group of community and just feel like, okay, this is too vulnerable at first, but no, you know what? I'm in now. I'm ready to go.
I'm
I
in it.
definitely
Yeah.
I definitely can see how that can turn you and where it led you to where you are. And I'm so grateful because like I said, you just from being at your event, I felt that. I hadn't felt that much vulnerability in a long time. And I've been in therapy before. It's been a few years since I've been, but you're right. It's different. I mean, you gotta, I don't know, it's just not for everybody. Cause like we're
Yeah.
learning from what Alex mentioned in that book, healing is different for all across the spectrum. So do you think
Hmm.
now, instead of maybe being, would you call yourself more of a bookseller, or would you call yourself more of a community healer?
Ooh. Um, I resonate more with community healer.
I had a feeling. And
With a side of bookseller, perhaps.
no, that's
But
okay. Everybody needs resources.
right.
So now that
I know
you've,
I love that too because healing does look so different
yeah,
like for some folks it's therapy, for some folks it's again like these community circles, for some folks it's walking or reading or and different things like that. The other thing too, if folks are wondering, or just to kind of follow up now, I had a talk. That's the other thing too, is you're not going to always click right with, you know, um, a provider.
oh, absolutely.
And I feel like people shouldn't give up
Yeah,
also, right? Like you deserve to click with someone, right?
yeah,
Like you shouldn't just kind of settle and be like, okay, this is it. I gotta, pay this copay for an hour of this, or, like you deserve to like vibe with someone and feel like someone holds space for you and things like that.
I agree. And I think a lot of times people, we just think that it's one size fits all, like whoever I got, I have them. And personally, I feel the same way. I think you have to try your therapist on like a pair of shoes, not to equate a person to a pair of shoes, but
Right.
it's just you want to make sure it's comfortable. You want to make sure you can walk with them, that they vibe with you. This is a
Yeah.
long-term relationship. It's not like I'm going to be here for just a week.
Right.
I'm probably going to be here for a couple of years. So I need to
Yeah.
make sure I get my coin worth. So I
Yeah.
totally agree. But no, I could definitely see where you would definitely be a community healer with some good book resources. So speaking along that line, and since this was a healing journey for you as well, what is a good book that you would recommend right now for someone on the healing journey?
Ooh. 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 Oh gosh. So I have a collection
Okay.
called Take Good Care.
Ooh.
And those are some of my favorite healing books
Okay.
in that collection. It is very comprehensive. A few of my favorites, though, right now. I
Okay.
can vouch for all of those in that collection, and they are wonderful. A few of my favorites right now. I
Uh,
love How We Heal
yes.
by Alex.
Mhm.
Um, what I love about that book is what I was saying before about that exchange. That exchange to me translates into safety, right? Especially when you are not, again, um, when it may be difficult to kind of tap into your feelings, or if healing feels intimidating to you. What I love about Alex's book and her work in general is she'll give you a prompt, and a lot of times with me, I'll look at a prompt and I'll go, mm-hmm. And then she goes, this is what was on my list.
Right.
Right. And so then I'm like, oh, I can like, okay, all right. Okay, now I got this. Okay, I can do this now, right? So it's just that little bit, and her whole book is like that. And I also love how there's breath work, soul work, there's community work. So I love that.
Hmm.
Um, Another book that I love is The Sugar Jar. That is all about self healing and boundaries. That is actually our February book club pick. Um, by Yasmin Cheyenne, and she's going to be tapping in with us in February to kind of
Oh,
like discuss things when we do our community meetup. So I'm
okay.
really looking forward to that. Another one that I love, This Here Flesh, that is recommended. That is mandatory reading. I'm just going to say mandatory reading.
Oh, okay.
Everyone grab that. It's wonderful. It's liberating. It's wonderful. I
Okay.
also love Rest is Resistance.
I've seen that one too recently a lot. Yeah.
That one is beautiful. And that's all about tapping into our dream space. That's all about rest is not something that we need to earn. Rest is something that is ours, that is our birthright. Beautiful. It's like a balm, like a
Oh,
healing balm.
I totally need to add that to my reading list.
It's beautiful.
Yes. How do you get through all these books, ma'am?
Listen, girl, I have different modalities. I do some audiobooks. I do
Okay.
some, I got all forms on deck and just
I love that because I was like, I'm listening to an audible book right now. I have Alex's book and I go like back and forth.
yeah.
And then I have a couple of other ones waiting in the tuck that I need to do. So I was just like,
Hmm.
okay, I have to ask you, how do you do that? How do you do it? So
Yeah.
then with you having this reading list, I have to ask too, and we're on this healing journey. Do
Hmm.
you have a word for 2023?
I do.
What is your
I do
word
have
for
a word. My word is harmony.
Ooh, okay. And how does that, what is your vision for that applying into your life right now?
I will tell you that my vision for harmony has not been coming to life so far in January. I'm gonna be straight up. I'm gonna be for real. What that looks like to me is rest,
Mm-hmm.
joy, laughter, work, purpose. It kind of all of that coalescing. Like I don't want to have a work-life balance. I just
Mm,
want life.
okay.
I want it
Ooh,
to all integrate into a soft life. I'm here for the soft life. Um,
yes.
that's what I'm aiming for.
I love it. I'm all about the soft life myself. I am exhausted. As a woman, I'm exhausted. So yes, soft life queens over here. I love that.
Yes.
So I am totally sending you good energy for harmony. My words, I have two, the Renaissance, because I'm in a revival, a rebirth of myself going into my 50s. And then also a surrender because
Oof.
I need to surrender. Like I am the type A personality, the fixer, and God is like, girl, if you don't
Mhm.
sit your butt down somewhere, I know better. Like I got this.
Mhm.
So that is totally working on me. And I feel the same way that you feel about harmony.
Yes.
Not all coming together. I spend a lot of time in prayer, a lot.
Mhm.
Like, Lord, please help me so I can calm down to surrender. But yes,
Right.
so I feel that for you. What are you doing what are you reading? That's a better question. What are you reading to coincide with your work?
I am actually rereading This Here Flesh
Okay.
right now. I just finished listening to Before I Let Go,
Okay.
which is by Kennedy Ryan. So she's wonderful. And that book is a fiction book. And so
Okay.
that's a great, like, for if you're looking for like a little escapism. What I
Yeah.
love about it is it does have some mental health awareness in it. Like at the core, it's like a second chance romance.
Okay.
But there is um, that element where she explores mental health and grief, and it just is very relatable. And she
Yeah.
writes for women of color. She writes for Black women, like just kind of centering, um, you know, joy and space um, for the culture. So that's a great one. That's a fiction.
Okay.
So that's where I'm at right now. I'm going to be starting the Sugar Jar
Okay.
soon, and I'm super excited about that.
Yes, because I have it on my list from when we talked during our pre-call. So I definitely will be adding that to my reading this year. So I love how again, you create this space, but you also live the space as
I'm
well.
trying to, yes.
It's not easy, but I think you're doing an amazing job.
And that's the
outside.
thing, is having grace, right? Like having grace
Yeah.
through it all. It's like, like when it's is that, I think it's Maya Angelou, it's like when when you know better, you do better, or,
Yes.
like now I know, so I'm going to try but that's been a part of the journey too. It's just kind of like offering myself forgiveness for a lot of
Yes.
things, and
Mhm.
my season now, offering myself grace
Yeah.
as we're kind of getting through these things.
I love that. And I think that there is grace for those who seek it. So I totally feel that way. We all need to
Amen.
seek more grace on our journeys because they're not
Hmm.
easy. Along that line, I was going to say, are you happy right now?
I am. I
I love
am.
That's good, because not everybody can answer that question. I know that's probably sounds
Hmm.
so random, but if I think about it, when I ask some people sometimes, are they happy? Some people, you really can't say that. And I think that's sad, because
Hmm.
life is going to life. We're still going to go through all the things that we're going to do, but to be able to still find joy, find happiness in it is
Hmm.
so important as we're
Hmm.
healing on this journey.
Yeah.
So
It's not always easy. It's not
it's
always
not.
easy.
It's not, and every day is not going to be happy.
Right. So I'm going to change my answer to I am happy today.
That's okay. I'm going to come along with you and say I am happy today, and I'm hopeful that we'll be happy tomorrow. But
Yes.
I think it's the fact that we can at least be honest about whether we're happy or not, because some
Hmm.
folks can't. And I hope that a lot of people can see that even though life may be lifing, we're still finding ways to find joy.
Hmm. Hmm.
So, my dear, what is the next event? Like, what's going on now that we can like support and be a part of?
So we have a lot of virtual events coming up.
Okay.
So in February, we're going to have the author of The Sugar Jar, Yasmin Cheyenne. She's going to be tapping in for that virtual discussion, which I am telling folks now, pull up, bring your journals. It's going to be powerful. I just know it.
When is
Um,
it?
that is going to be February. Let me tell
I
you
know,
the
I'm putting
date
you on the
here.
spot. I'm sorry.
No. February 23rd. That's a
Oh,
virtual event. It's free.
okay.
Um, so that's coming up. And then locally, I have a few community events at different markets and things like that in town. I'm up in North Central Florida in Gainesville.
Uh-huh.
Um, so that's what we have coming on deck right now. And then hopefully some stuff in summertime.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe create another space or an event
Yes.
to,
Yes. Yes.
yes.
Yes. And so you're pulling on me. I'm pulling on you. We're pulling on each other because I want
Yes.
to do it. I totally want to do it and bring something here to Orlando where I am, because
Yes.
I think we need to keep these healing spaces going and
Hmm.
building. So definitely. And I will make sure that I put all the links to everything so we can support the events, because virtual events are really great. Like, that's how I discovered Alex too. I discovered her virtually. That was like my first
Yeah.
live, but you got to pour into yourself wherever you can and get in. So
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. Totally. So, okay, we're kind of wrapping up. So I have like a
Okay.
few little questions I like to ask people
Okay.
now. Okay. So one, you kind of told me all about the books and stuff like that.
Hmm.
I'm asking this random question lately to people because I'm just curious, because I feel like music and books are like the soundtrack of our lives,
Hmm.
really. So what song is something that's like keeps you pumped up right now, that's getting you through, keeping you encouraged? What are you listening to?
At this, it's gonna almost always be Bad Bunny. It's gonna almost always be Bad Bunny.
I love him though. I'm on the Peloton. I'm in Peloton.
Oh yeah, me
And
too. Yes.
yes, right. And Arzon, Rachel,
Robin.
Robin Arzon, she plays him
Yeah.
in her course a lot. I love that. Okay, so Bad Bunny is like number one to get you going.
Yes. I mean, almost always that's gonna be the answer.
I totally love that. And I would not expect that of you. I was like expecting something like really chill, like, oh, no.
Fun fact: at the event, I curated like a pre-show playlist.
Yeah.
And I wanted it to be a vibe, right? I don't know, like I wanted like some, some like chill, but then I wanted like some like upbeat. I threw in some like Lauryn Hill X Factor,
Yes.
some like good old
Yes.
like tunes,
Yeah.
I did throw in a Bad Bunny. I was like, I had to. I'm like, I gotta just throw one in just to see how it, I don't know if it played, but
Oh my
I
gosh.
did
Oh
throw
my
one
gosh.
in.
I'm trying to think because I was probably like still so in like awe. I don't remember, but I do remember I was like grooving and like all of us like as we were getting like tea and stuff, we're just like
Yeah.
grooving as we're going through. Very nice. I love that. Always incorporate a little of yourself in everything. That's how it goes. Totally. And my final question would be, what's one thing that you would want my audience or anyone to know about you that you haven't already said?
Oh, um, gosh, trying to
Don't feel
think.
like you're on the spot. You got it. You tell
Yeah.
us.
One thing. Can you repeat it one more time?
Yeah. What's one thing that you would want my audience or anyone to know about you that you haven't already talked about today while we're sitting here?
um, we really kind of went through a lot of stuff. So I'm
I
trying
know. I know. We went through the litany. If you can't think of anything, that's okay. That just means that you're like super open, which I totally can feel like you are. But hey, I just have to check.
Yeah. No, I feel super open. I would say, um, I don't have a 5-year plan. That might be something, which is, I don't, maybe for people who know me,
Uh-huh.
that's going to be more of a like, oh, I did not know that. But that's like that's like my MO is like, I want to know where I'm going, when I'm going there, all
Uh-huh.
those kinds of things. So that kind of aligns maybe more with like surrender.
Okay.
But I am just showing up every day
Hmm.
and doing the best that I can. I'm like super, like I wake up energized
Mm.
and honored to be doing this work, but I don't have like a 5-year. I'm just kind of doing it like day by day and just seeing what the universe and what feels right and what the next thing is going to be and what may be in alignment, which again is probably not what most folks would think for an entrepreneur. But this is where we're at. So I'm just kind of, I'm leaning more into trust, alignment, and faith and less into um, certainty.
Yeah. I, I'll be honest. I'm not worried about that. Like for you, I don't think that's a bad path. I don't,
I
because
received that. Thank you.
yeah,
I appreciate that.
I don't, because it's kind of like I always like to tell people sometimes it's funny. We make plans and God laughs. So it's like, why would
Hmm.
you not put your trust fully out
Hmm.
there? Like you said, you're leaning in your faith, you're trusting, and you're moving through. That's intention. That's
Hmm.
divine. So that's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you.
Wow.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, that's super powerful. And so I guess again to you guys, that's also to me very inspiring that we think again, kind of going back to what I said earlier, it's like you think you have to have it all planned out. You
Hmm.
necessarily don't. You need to just believe in yourself. And the fact that you have that belief and that confidence, I think is amazing. This has been so fun. Like I have
I
loved
know.
chatting with you like this. And I definitely want to make sure we connect with you. So my last question is where can we
Okay.
follow you? You have to give us all the social deets so that way I can do it. And I promise I'll link everything in the show notes. But
Yes. All the social deeds.
yes.
So, yes, remember, I started social media at 40. So I have one platform
Yes.
and it's on Instagram. So it's Compass. It's at Compass, 2 underscores
Okay.
collective. And
Okay.
so when you go there, you'll find me, and I have a link in my bio that'll take you to all the fun things. I'll take you to our online shop. Again, we're an independent bookstore. It'll take you to community events, newsletters, merch. I have some really cute healing inspired merch and things like that. But yeah, all that stuff will be there. Author spotlights, all the things.
Well, I will make sure I have all the things listed in the show notes so that we can support you. And I just want to thank you again because, again, it never feels like work talking to you. It just feels like, oh, this is like a really good conversation with someone I've known
Yeah,
forever. So I just want to thank you for taking time out of your schedule to sit down with us.
I'm
I really
Oh
appreciate
my
it.
gosh, that means so much to me. Thank you so much for having me. I'm so grateful. to you. And I've told you before, but I just feel so aligned with your energy. And like right off the bat, right? Like it does feel like it's just like, it just is very natural and a flow and a vibe. And I'm just so grateful for you and for your presence and for bringing me and introducing me to your community. That's super special. And it's not lost on me, of
Well,
how special that is. So thank you.
thank you. I'm very honored. So, guys, this is the end of our episode. And Z, we will definitely have you back and we will be supporting and sharing. I'll have everything in the show notes for everybody. And I hope you guys have a great, amazing week. Thanks again, and we'll talk soon. Take care. Bye bye.